Right, fantastic. Welcome back everyone for session 2. So now the change is that we're going to focus on Korea, New South Wales investment opportunities. So we're going to start exploring some of the opportunities arising from New South Wales first, and in particular from the new Western Sydney Aerotropolis. A very interesting name as well, which I'm sure many of the Korean EPC companies here today will be very interested to learn more about. So to tell us more about this opportunity, I'd like to welcome Ms. Kylie Bell, the Executive Director of Industry, Trade and Investment at the New South Wales Department of Industry. Over to you, Kylie.
Thank you, everyone. I might just put that up a little bit. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge the Consul General. Thank you so much for having me here today. Mr. So, the Director General from COTRA, thank you as well. Of course, Liz, really appreciate you having the New South Wales Government represented today. And of course, our fantastic MP, Mr. Jonathan O'Day. So look, who has actually heard of the Aerotropolis before I begin? Is this a project that's quite new to? Yes, good. Good that the New South Wales Government puts up their hand. But what I might do is I've only got 10 minutes, and it's a huge project. So I'll run through this very quickly, and then when we get to the panel question and answer stage, I can take more questions from you then. But look. Firstly, why Western Sydney? Many of you would know that Western Sydney is actually now the third largest economy in Australia, Sydney, Melbourne and then Western Sydney. And we'll share these presentations with you so you have them. The population is growing at a rapid pace, and it's forecast to grow by more than 50% over the next sort of 20 years to reach a population of 3 million people, which by Australian standards is quite significant. It has a young demographic profile. Today, I think something like 30% of the population in Western Sydney are under the age of 25. And around 67% of the population of Western Sydney have to travel in every day to the city or to Parramatta or Macquarie Park, for example, to work. So part of our objective in developing this significant project is creating domestic and local employment opportunities in the region so that people aren't travelling an hour or two every day to get to the office. And importantly, it's also a culturally diverse area. I'm sure many of you have spent great deal of time in Western Sydney, but today 35% of the population in that area, which is around 1 million people today, speak a language other than English at home. So in terms of a place to base your business, Western Sydney is a fantastic and growing location. This is, I guess, what we in government in New South Wales, and Jonathan would be very familiar with this, Sydney is developing into a tale of 3 cities is where we would like to head. So we have the CBD, which we're all here today, and most of you would have your offices here on George Street or Pitt Street and would travel in to work each day. The second city, which has been very well developed, is the city of Parramatta and the surrounding region, and that itself has another population of around 2 million. And the home of Western Sydney, the Aerotropolis, the Badgerys Creek and the new airport is the third city that the government is currently building to be open by 2026, which today is home to a population of around 1 million people. And as I mentioned, over the next 10 to 15 years, we anticipate that will grow in size to 3 million. So it will become an economic powerhouse of Sydney, and we are looking to create fantastic opportunities which organisations like yourselves could potentially partner with us on. To date, I'll talk a little bit because many of you are with EPC contractors or the financing sector. So today, the Aerotropolis Badgerys Creek Airport and the surrounding precinct is a commitment with 3 levels of government. Today, we have the federal government supporting, and much of the land that's being developed is federal government land. We have obviously a strong commitment from the state government and 8 participating local councils in the Western Sydney region, all coming together to develop this project. The commitment that we have made jointly already is a commitment of $20 billion spend in infrastructure, and that's focused on both the airport and the development of supporting infrastructure around that. The airport itself, which I'll talk about first, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the connecting infrastructure. But the vision for the airport is that it will be open by 2026. It has already a commitment of $5.3 billion from the government to fund that project. Many of you would know that already earlier this year, the Western Sydney Airport Authority was formed, and a CEO and a team are all on track. And in fact, ground has already broken. A few months ago, I would have said it was a greenfield site. Now it's a bit brown. But Bechtel has been appointed as the partner to work, I guess, with the airport in the overall project management of the program over the next 8 years. And Lendlease has been appointed to do some initial groundwork. We're also already underway with some of the telecoms and some of the other infrastructure around that. So the project is moving, it's real, it's live, there's money allocated, and I guess a corporation that is already deeply involved in developing the plans for that. The plan and the vision for the airport is that it is going to be twice the size of the Sydney airport, and it will be both a passenger civil airport as well as a freight airport. And over time, we envisage that much of the freight activity that is currently occurring at the Sydney airport here will move west to support where most of the industry is located and to enable better connectivity with regional New South Wales. The runway at the plan for the airport, it's quite amazing. They have, and I should have brought some of this along for you today, but the planning is being done in stages, and there is a sort of 40-year plan for the airport that will start with one 3,700 metre runway, which is suitable for A380 aircraft. But over time, a second runway will be built, and the Airport Authority is working closely to ensure that at day one opening, it can accommodate 10 million passengers per year. And that figure has been sort of, the plan is built so that over a 50-year period, that figure can go up to as high as 80 million passengers a year. Now, I have no idea if we'll hit that, but certainly the plan is that from day one, the airport will be in size and scale that it can easily cope with 10 million passengers a year, and that will quickly grow to 20 million in the first 3 years of operation. Plus all the passenger traffic. So the design work is currently underway, and a lot of that planning and modelling is being done. And over the next few months, you'll start to see some of the procurement opportunities coming online. And the government is also very interested in hearing from technology companies around, for example, airports of the future. What technology will be suitable for an airport that's going to open in 10 years' time? What technology will be required to service the freight and logistics sector? So they're very much looking to building an airport of the future that will be 5G enabled. And I guess this is where we would like to seek input potentially from the Korean business community, where you've done this at home, and you might be able to share insights to us as to what factors we should be considering. So that's the airport. It's real, it's live, it's happening. Keep an eye out. Please feel free to contact us so that we can connect you with the Western Sydney Airport Authority. We share an office with them in Liverpool, and they are moving at very rapid pace, so it's a very exciting opportunity for you to become involved in. So the second piece I thought I would talk about is the connecting infrastructure and how the new precinct and how that new, what we're calling the Aerotropolis, will look when it goes live on 2026. So last week, the government introduced a land use and infrastructure plan, which is essentially starting to look at the connecting infrastructure that will, I guess, support the region. The commitment by the federal government and the state government and the 8 local councils is that when the airport opens on the 24th of December, I think it's going to do a maiden Christmas flight, on the 24th of December in 2026, the airport will be connected by major road, rail and freight rail, so that passengers that get off the airport on Christmas Day in 2026 will be able to catch a train into the city or catch a train to northern Sydney or to Parramatta for where they would like to go. And importantly, the industry that is supplying and sending freight through the airport will be able to connect immediately through both major road and freight rail. The land use plan also has allocated 9 precincts that my team and in particular my team, as well as the Greater Sydney Commission, are working to engage with businesses to encourage them to locate in these new precincts. But as you can see here, the Western Sydney, it's called the South West Rail, and it will go from most of Sydney infrastructure currently has all points coming and ending in the CBD. And so the government's first commitment is to build a major road and rail that connects from northern New South Wales to southern New South Wales with the airport in the middle. So that if you're based in Newcastle, you don't actually have to come into the city at all to come into the airport. And likewise, if you would like to come from somewhere in southern New South Wales, once again, you can easily connect to the airport, or freight can easily connect to the airport for exports. We'll also have light rail or passenger rail from the airport connecting into St Mary's, which then connects into the city. But the development area itself will also have hotels and restaurants and be somewhere that business can stay and work without having to come into the city. In terms of the business precincts that we're working on, the 9 precincts have already started to be allocated in the land use plan that came out last week. The first 3 precincts, the first is called the Aerotropolis Core. I guess if you've got the word Aerotropolis, you might as well go with it. So that precinct will be a high-tech precinct with a focus on defence and aerospace, health and medtech, and I guess technology companies. Next week we'll announce, or in the next few weeks we'll start to announce some of the companies that we're working with, but many of you might have seen earlier that Northrop Grumman has already committed to setting up a facility in the Aerotropolis focused on training and R&D. We've also allocated, and I'll just see if there's a map, maybe there's not, but we've also, I'll go forward so you can see how it looks. So the yellow and blue stripe is the Aerotropolis Core, which will be the new high-tech precinct, which also has airport access. To the left of that, we will be setting up an agribusiness and agriculture precinct. The vision of the Aerotropolis is that you will be able to do high-intensive farming or high-intensive horticulture or food processing right next to the airport. It will have biosecurity and inbuilt quarantine. And so if you're a trading company or a business, a producer that's producing food, you will literally be able to connect into the airport, have your product freighted into Seoul overnight, and the product could be available for distribution the following day. So the airport, unlike Sydney Airport, will be a 24-hour airport with no curfew to facilitate that freight corridor. So that agribusiness precinct is a part of New South Wales's vision, I guess, of being the food bowl of Asia. And our goal is to be able to export fresh produce, high-value produce from anywhere in New South Wales to anywhere in the world within 36 hours. So that's the vision we're setting ourselves, and we're setting up that infrastructure to facilitate that. And at the top end is what we're calling the Northern Gateway, which will be a mixed-use precinct with both industry and high-end residential. The government is also investing in infrastructure such as universities, schools and hospitals in the region or in the vicinity to ensure that it's a completely livable city. And you'll notice that there's a river called South Creek running right through the middle of the precinct. And so we plan to develop that area to have bars and restaurants and recreational facilities so that it's an attractive place for people to live and work and they don't need to come into the harbour. So I guess that is the vision for the Aerotropolis. It's a pretty busy and exciting and intense time. There's a lot happening, and I guess we are working closely with businesses to try and get them involved in the process. I see 3 opportunities for Korean companies to partner with the New South Wales government. I guess the first is to become anchor tenants and locate there. If you have a business that's involved in trading, or a business that's involved in high technology or manufacturing or research and development, or excellent, to work in that particular space, the Aerotropolis may be a fantastic place for you to be based. You'll have the opportunity to create it is greenfield, so a purpose-built facility. We are partnering with, for example, universities and TAFE and other research institutions to set up there. The second opportunity is obviously the significant infrastructure spend that will be underway. I've done my calculations, and I'm pretty sure that the vision is going to need more than $20 billion over the next 10 years to get this project up and running and the supporting infrastructure in place. So from the banking sector, I see great opportunities from a project finance and I guess infrastructure development point of view. And I guess the third point is that there are going to be significant procurement opportunities and development opportunities in the region. Throughout the construction of the airport, through the implementation of essentially the build of a whole new city, hospital development, university development, residential, commercial. So this area over the next 10 years, I think, will be a significant area for growth, and we would really like to, I guess, work closely with businesses such as yourselves to explore what the opportunities for you here might be. But I hope it's set sort of a bit of a an overview of what's happening. For those of you that don't head west very often, each time, I was in a traffic jam in Penrith last week, which was just as bad as a traffic jam in the CBD on a Friday afternoon. So there is a lot happening, and if you're not across some of the projects that are underway there, please do reach out to all of us, and we look forward to seeing how we might be able to connect you in with the various opportunities that exist there. And I think I'll leave that as my 10 minutes. And if we will, of course, share presentation so that you've got some of this background, and I can answer questions when we do the panel. Thank you.